And why do you think London is so determined to go against Russia? Of course, with the help of America, because we can't do it on our own. Well, because the fiat-based money system is instrumental to the health of the city of London. That's all it is. Saturday, September 14th, 2024, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So yes, gold has made a new high. It broke out of that 25-30 level, and not a peep in the mainstream media, any of the newspapers. And you might be wondering why. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to refer as well to a pocketbook of gold by Jim Sinclair. There's some really interesting things that he says about why the powers that be, the elites, don't want the general public to own gold. And that might explain why you're not hearing anything about gold trading up to almost 2,600 via the spot price. And the fact that gold has been outperforming a lot of, asset classes this year, including the NASDAQ, treasury bonds and notes. And gold is usually known as a protector versus currency debasement. And that's true, fiat currency debasement. But what we're going to look at today is how it also allows the powers that be to inflate away from like deflations to make sure that the public is blind to the fact that we've been in a depression for almost a quarter of a century. I also want to try to dispel this notion that it doesn't matter how much fiat debt the government creates, that the dollar will remain strong, and that the treasury market won't collapse. And I'll do that via looking at these assets in terms of gold. Recently, I think this past week, the treasury itself announced that year to date, fiscal year to date in 24, the interest expense reached $1 trillion for the first time. And there are a lot of people out there saying, well, it doesn't matter, the treasury market is still strong, yields are going down, that is going to keep growing. And that's true in terms of the fiat dollar. But in terms of gold, is a completely different story. And that's what it's all about. But before we look at why I think the economy has been in a great depression since around the year 2000, we're going to refer to a pocketbook of gold, and why, if you look online at the FT, Wall Street Journal, investing.com, Daily Telegraph, any newspapers in the business section, nothing about gold. Silver as well ran up above 30, that key level. Silver is up about 27% year to date, and not a peep. Well, we'll look at why that is so. And it's on page 10 of A Pocketbook of Gold by Jim Sinclair and Peter Carlin. This is a tough one to find. I was lucky that I bought it through Jim Sinclair's blog, jsmindset.com. Many years ago. I started following him back in 2002. Unfortunately, he's passed away. But anyway, this is why we're probably not hearing anything about gold in the mainstream press. Gold bypasses government. Governments who have the power to tax their citizens are notoriously profligate when it comes to spending their citizens' money. As spending accelerates, deficits become entrenched, and devaluation of the currency looms. Gold, however, cannot be depreciated away by the acts of government, like reckless spending on wars, bailout of stone-dead banks, and endless political programs by politicians whose only aim is self-enrichment and re-election. All sounds very familiar. We've got all of that in spades, not just here in the UK, but in the US and other countries in the West. Gold bypasses these entities. This is why governments who operate fiat-based money systems, every country in the Western world, fear gold. And I think it's one of the reasons why NATO, under the leadership of the US and the UK, are going after Russia. They want to destroy the current regime in Russia. They're using Ukraine, of course, as a proxy, because Russia, leading the BRICS, is challenging this fiat-based money system. And why do you think London is so determined to go against Russia? Of course, with the help of America, because we can't do it on our own. Well, because the fiat-based money system is instrumental to the health of the City of London. That's all it is. It is a threat to their control and power over citizenry. This alone may be a reason enough to own gold. Gold is liberating. Gold exists without favor. Gold does not require allegiance and trust, only possession, which is all it recognizes. What does that mean? Well, it means that that's what it means, possession. Yes, you might want to keep some in a private vault, and I do recommend that. You need to decide for yourself what kind of risk you want to take, counterparty risk. Many of you, of course, have asked me where to buy gold and store it here in the UK, and I keep vouching for gold investments. And why is that? Well, because I've dealt with them for over 20 years. They've been in business for almost 45 years. And if you want to find out more how they can help you with not just buying physical, but also storing it in their private vault, have a look at the description of this video. Anyway, and I want to add as well that a lot of times I see comments, oh, you just want to sell gold, you're shilling for gold. Not really. My purpose of this channel has been to warn people about this for the last almost 10 years. I started this channel at the end of 2015. And I started warning family, friends, colleagues back in 2002 because I learned about how important gold was. So this is something that is kind of a mission for me. And it's much more important than just selling gold. It's more about waking people up. So there you go. That's why you've probably haven't heard anything about gold, even though we are at an all-time high. You won't hear it from your financial advisor. And if you do, they're going to tell you it's really risky, even though gold has been going up on average about 10% every year since the year 2000 in all the major fiat currencies. And I'll read a couple of more parts of this book, and then we're going to look at why I think gold is helping mask a Great Depression since the year 2000. And it's the part here, one of my favorite parts. Where is it? Yeah, gold allows you to be your own central bank. Although a central bank is supposed to maintain the value and purchasing power of a currency, it has both the ability and the tendency to depreciate the wealth of citizens through excess money printing. Interestingly, while they issue paper money, they also maintain gold as a currency reserve. That alone should tell you something. Central banks do not depend entirely on their own paper currency to maintain wealth. They use gold. Why? One reason is because gold offsets currency risk. Through the retention of gold, an individual mimics the function of a central bank and therefore negates the detrimental effects of a central bank running its monetary printing press. It's why they own it, and they don't want you to. The controller of a nation's money supply can dictate the distribution of wealth and power within that nation. As the banker Maya Rothschild once said, "Give me control of a nation's money supply, and I care not who makes its laws. Gold mitigates the power surrendered by holding a fiat currency. Gold is power." So there you go. If you want to have power over your own destiny, gold will help. And I'm not saying gold is everything, but it's very important in terms of financial power for you and your family, and maybe even friends, if you're able to help friends as well. Because I think that's really important as well, being generous about things and helping those who maybe haven't been as fortunate to know about this. Gold is a hedge against the self-serving nature of governments. Again, ponder the power equation. Gold ownership passes the central bank function directly to yourself. In the spirit of self-reliance, it is better to be your own central bank instead of delegating the responsibility to a third party like the Federal Reserve or the Bank of England. Both institutions have a poor record in maintaining currency values. I couldn't agree more. And that's why you shouldn't really worry that much when they have their FOMC meetings or their minutes. Or if you're worried about September 18th, whether they're going to cut by 25 or 50, if you've got gold, you shouldn't care. Gold takes the Federal Reserve out of your life, or at the very least marginalizes it. Since the central bank is the primary controller of a currency's value and therefore your wealth, this is no bad thing. So yes, it would be great to end the Fed, but you can end the Fed for yourself by being your own central bank. So let's look at these charts I spoke to you about. And the interesting thing is that usually gold is known to protect your purchasing power in times of inflation. But I'm going to refer also and recommend this book, The Great Depression, a diary of Benjamin Roth. And I have to thank one of the viewers for sending me this. And I'm not saying you should send me stuff, but if you do want to send me something, go to Gold Investments website and find their address and send it there. You can understand why I don't want to give my address. But anyway, I'm almost finished with these diaries. And one thing I learned is that during the Great Depression, where you had a deflationary collapse, where prices of commodities, unemployment, I think there were 12 million unemployed people in the US. The industry came to a halt almost. One thing that people wanted and one thing governments did was devalue the currency versus gold. And at the time, the dollar was supposed to be as good as gold. 1 ounce of gold was $20.67. And it's really interesting when you go through this diary that Benjamin Roth in his entries talks about, well, the dollar today is only worth 62% of its true value, and the inflation is picking up again. So they did that back then, and they're doing it, in my opinion, and have been doing it since the year 2000. And these are the major reasons why I think that is so. One of them is the price of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, as you can see here, versus gold, XAU-USD. And when we had Greenspan's Great Moderation or Goldilocks from like the, let's say, late 80s until the year 2000, everything was fine. The dollar was strong. Gold went from 400 to 250 from around late 80s to the turn of the century. That's where it bottomed at 250. And as you can see here, you needed 44 ounces of gold in the summer of 1999 to buy one Dow. So that was the top of the Great Moderation of Goldilocks. And ever since then, the Dow has been really in a downward trend. Yes, we saw a rebound from 2011 up until, let's see here, September 2018, only because the central bankers threw so much inflation at the system that it got financial assets like stocks and bonds through QE and zero rates. It ramped up their value, but now this Dow Gold ratio is turning because they've created so much debt, so much inflation, that unless they keep devaluing the dollar and keep things artificially inflated, the whole system collapses. But the other problem that exists is that if they do this too much, this inflating, you could see the value of the currency go to zero, and that would be hyperinflation. So it doesn't really matter, deflation or hyperinflation. So you can see here that really in terms of gold, and it's really important what we measure things with, value with, and the system that we have of measuring value versus debt, because the fiat dollar is debt, is an anomaly. For 2,500 years, up until August 15th, 1971, value was measured as a weight of gold or silver, something tangible, the most marketable commodity, right? That's what it was. And it still is. They can keep trying to hide everything, but eventually gold and silver are going to come back, because this system can't keep going forever, because you can't keep inflating the debt forever. And there are some who think it can be done just because it's been done for the last 40 years. But what they don't look at are charts like this, that in terms of real money, we're actually seeing a great depression, I would say. And you might think, what are you talking about? We're not even in a recession yet. I think you have to look at the bigger picture from 30,000 feet. And if you look at the wealth disparity in the US and Western Europe, if you look at the political climate, the divisiveness everywhere around the West, if you look at the social craziness that we have, and if you look at the geopolitical situation, since I've been alive, I've never seen it in the West as it is. And I think it's a symptom of this Great Depression. So we're also going to look at the price of gold. The price of TLT, which basically is an ETF that mimics long-term treasuries. And luckily they have it here. And I think TLT started trading in 2002. But as you can see, for those who think just because yields have dropped recently and that bond prices are going up, that treasuries are a good place to be. I mean, people still think that you should hold 40% of your portfolio in treasuries and 60% in stocks. Think again. I don't have to tell you what the trend is for the price of TLT and gold. So there you go. And I've also added IEI. What's IEI? Well, those are medium-term treasuries, like 3 to 7 years. That one started trading in 2007. but it's the same trend. And that's why I think we are in a Great Depression. And so gold is actually acting like an escape valve for the powers that be. The only problem with it is that they want to keep it under the radar, because if people start realizing that gold is the place to be, that it will protect you, their whole game of controlling the citizenry, as Jim Sinclair talks about, comes under threat. And I think it is under threat. A lot of people are waking up to this, to what I'm talking about. And is it any wonder that there's so much censorship going on now on social media? And I think it's all related to the money. It always comes back to the money. And why? Well, because money is half of all commercial transactions you will ever make in your life. Unless, of course, you might want to barter, which is also an option. But generally speaking, money or currency really is really important. So with that, I'm going to wish you all a very good weekend. Take care. Bye.